Life was luxurious and comfortable in Hawthorne for the young woman named Isabelle Sanders, but she was never truly happy because she had no freedom. Her father, Mr. Robert Sanders, constantly dictated what she should do. Even her dream of becoming a pianist was set aside just to accommodate her father's plans for her. Eventually, Isabelle could no longer bear her lack of freedom, so she decided to run away and pretend to be a housekeeper for Clarice and Bianca, a mother and daughter who lived in a large home. Despite the poor treatment she received from the mother and daughter, Isabelle remained humble. She endured it because, in this new life, she felt a greater sense of freedom. What shocking twist awaits her at a lavish party? One day, Clarice and Bianca thought of publicly embarrassing her at a party for wealthy people, not knowing that at that very party they would discover the true identity of their housekeeper, Isabelle. This is Mr. Hope again, inviting you to witness another exciting story, Dark Voices. Early that morning, 28-year-old Isabelle Sanders woke up in her luxurious bedroom. Anyone who stepped into that room could tell the kind of life she had. She was the only child of billionaire Mr. Robert Sanders, owner of Sanders Enterprises. As an only child, Isabelle was forced to follow in her father's footsteps, even though deep down she wanted to be known for her piano playing. Isabelle's passion for the piano came from her late mother, who taught her how to play when she was young. Even after her mother passed away from colon cancer, she would still occasionally play the piano in their mansion. Isabelle left her room, and when she reached the living area, she saw the large piano that had once belonged to her mother. She approached it and ran her fingers across the keys. She sat down and took a deep breath. Moments later, the mansion was filled with the melancholy sound of the piano. She was playing. Each note resonated within Isabelle as she played with her eyes closed. Her long black hair fell gracefully over her back, her smooth skin was as fair as porcelain. She was slim but carried herself elegantly. Isabelle, the deep voice startled her in the middle of her piece. She stopped playing and looked up to see her father, Mr. Robert Sanders. He was well known in the business world as a shrewd and excellent entrepreneur. He wore an expensive gray suit and stood at the foot of the staircase, looking intently at her. He walked closer. "Didn't I tell you I don't want you playing that piano? If it weren't for how important it was to your mother, I would have gotten rid of it a long time ago," Mr. Roberts said sternly. "Dad, please don't stop me from playing," Isabelle replied. "Mom is the one who taught me, and you know I want to be a pianist." "Can't you support my dream?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. "That dream of yours is pointless. Didn't you see what happened to your mother? She made nothing from her piano career." "Your place is in business, not on stage," Mr. Robert retorted. Isabelle fell silent. She glanced again at the piano but didn't continue playing. Mr. Robert left the mansion while Isabelle remained seated. She heaved a sigh as her thoughts returned to her dream of performing in front of a large audience, a dream that now seemed too distant, buried under the heavy responsibilities her father had placed upon her. From the window, Isabelle gazed out at their sprawling garden. In spite of all her material comforts, she felt like a prisoner in that mansion. "One day I'll find the courage to do what I really want," Isabelle whispered to herself. It was still morning at the main office of Sanders Enterprises, housed in a tall building in the city center. Inside a conference room, Isabelle sat with the company's board members. Each person wore expensive suits, and they were all in a serious discussion. In front of them, a projector displayed graphs and financial projections for the coming quarter. While everyone else was focused on the business at hand, Isabelle's gaze drifted outside. She sat quietly, obviously distracted. Her right hand lay on the table while her left hand toyed ceaselessly with a pen. "Miss Sanders, what's your opinion on the new partnership proposal?" one of the board members called out to Isabelle. She looked up at the man, her expression blank. She flipped through the papers in front of her, but it was as if she couldn't make sense of the words printed there. She raised her head and forced a smile. I think we should consider it more carefully," Isabelle replied hesitantly. Whispers spread through the room. At the other end of the table sat Mr. Robert, who cleared his throat loudly to silence everyone. His cold stare was fixed on Isabelle, but he said nothing more. The meeting ended with Isabelle feeling a mix of dread. She knew she hadn't performed well, but she couldn't shake the weight in her chest. Despite having worked in the corporate world for some time, she never truly felt that she belonged there. After the meeting, Mr. Robert called Isabelle to his office. She stood quietly before his desk while he sat in his swivel chair, arms folded, staring at her intently. "What's going on with you, Isabelle? Don't you realize how important that meeting was? You didn't even pay attention." "What do you think we're doing here, playing games?" he snarled. "Dad, I didn't mean to," she replied gently. "It's just that I feel this kind of work isn't really for me." "What do you mean it's not for you? Do you hear what you're saying? This is our world, this is the reason you're a billionaire at your age. Your responsibility is the company, not your whims," Mr. Roberts' voice echoed in the entire room. Isabelle fought back tears. Each word from her father felt like a stab to her heart. "I don't want to hear this happen again, Isabelle. Don't embarrass me in front of the board members. Understand?" Mr. Robert asked sharply. "Yes, Dad." "I'm sorry again," Isabelle answered softly. "Go on, you can leave," Mr. Robert dismissed her. She nodded and walked out, wondering how long she could endure her situation. She was terrified of disappointing her father, who had high expectations for her, but she also longed to fulfill her dream of becoming a pianist. That afternoon, Mr. Robert invited Isabelle to head home early in one of their expensive cars. Isabelle sat in the back seat while her father worked away on his laptop beside her, as if he couldn't spare a minute from business. "Dad, why are we heading home so soon?" Isabelle finally asked, breaking the silence. "Because we're meeting someone important later," Mr. Robert answered, not even glancing her way. "Who?" Isabelle followed up. "You'll find out soon. Just make sure you dress nicely later." "I want you to be presentable," Mr. Robert said curtly. Isabelle didn't ask more. She knew that no matter how much she prodded, her father wouldn't reveal what lay ahead. Night came. In Isabelle's bedroom, she stood in front of a full-length mirror inside her walk-in closet, which connected to her suite. She wore a simple white dress that fell just above her knees. After making sure she was presentable, she went downstairs and found Mr. Robert waiting in the living room. The moment he saw her outfit, he frowned. "What are you wearing, Isabelle?" he asked coldly, his brow creasing in annoyance. "Why, Dad? This is what I want to wear." "I'm comfortable," she replied. "Isabelle, we're going to a fine dining restaurant to meet a very important person. Didn't I tell you your attire reflects our family's name?" Mr. Roberts' voice boomed across the living room. She stood her ground but kept her tone firm. "Dad, there's nothing wrong with dressing simply. Do we always have to show off our wealth to people? Stop being stubborn, Isabelle. This isn't about what you want, this is about our family's image," Mr. Robert insisted. He then called out to one of their house staff. A middle-aged woman named M. Rose, who had cared for Isabelle since childhood, came rushing in from the kitchen. "M. Rose, help Isabelle change. Make sure she wears one of her expensive dresses. I want her to look elegant," Mr. Robert ordered. "But Dad," Isabelle tried to object. "Isabelle, don't push me," Mr. Robert said, his voice stern. "Just do as I say." M. Rose gently touched Isabelle's arm. "Come on, dear. Just do what your father says," she whispered with a supportive smile. Isabelle gave in. She walked with M. Rose back to her room. Inside her walk-in closet, she collapsed into a chair, disheartened. M. Rose went to look through Isabelle's collection of expensive, fashionable clothes, items Isabelle never really asked for but her father insisted on buying so she would look the part he wanted. M. Rose saw the sadness in Isabelle's expression. She set aside a fancy evening gown she was holding and sat next to her. "Isabelle, what's bothering you?" "You've been so quiet," M. Rose asked. Isabelle sighed. "I'm just tired," she said softly. "Tired? Tired of work?" M. Rose pressed gently. "Not just work, everything. My life. Every move I make is watched, every decision I have comes with someone telling me what's right and wrong. I do things even though I'm not happy." "I've done it for years," Isabelle replied sadly, tears welling in her eyes. M. Rose exhaled and wiped away Isabelle's tears. "Why don't you tell Mr. Robert?" Let him know how you really feel, she suggested. I tried, Rose, Isabelle murmured. But to him, business is everything. He doesn't see me as his daughter. I'm just part of his plan. I want to be a pianist like my mom taught me, but he won't allow it. Rose, who had essentially raised Isabelle, patted her hand. I know how it feels when you can't follow your heart, but sometimes we have to wait for the right moment. One day you'll find the courage to do what you want. While you don't have that chance yet, maybe it's best if you follow your father's wishes, Rose said kindly. Isabelle said nothing, but the fact that Rose listened made her feel slightly better. With a small nod, she watched Rose stand and sift through the dresses again. Eventually, Rose pulled out a navy blue gown, elegant but with a simple design. Try this on. It'll suit you, Rose said. Isabelle silently took the gown and headed to the changing area. After she finished dressing, she stared at herself in the mirror. Under the trappings of this fancy dress, she knew there was a woman yearning for simplicity and for freedom. That night, Isabelle wore the elegant navy blue gown as her father demanded, and they both left the mansion in a black luxury car. During the drive, Isabelle couldn't stop wondering who they would meet. After a few minutes, they arrived at an upscale restaurant. A staff member greeted them warmly. Good evening, Mr. Sanders, Miss Isabelle. Right this way, please, he said, leading them to a private dining area. When they reached the table, Isabelle froze. Theo Marshall, the son of one of her father's wealthy friends, was there. Isabelle disliked Theo immensely. He was arrogant and never stopped bragging about himself. Tall and fair-skinned, with eyes brimming with confidence, he always styled his hair impeccably. He wore a tailored, expensive suit. Theo stood and greeted them. Isabelle, it's been a while, he said, extending his hand. With no choice but to be polite, Isabelle accepted the handshake and forced a tight smile. Mr. Robert nodded, obviously pleased to see Theo. Theo, I appreciate you making time for us, he said cheerfully. You're never a bother, Mr. Sanders, especially if Isabelle is involved, Theo responded, eyeing her. Isabelle rolled her eyes. They all sat down, and the waiters began serving their meal. Theo spent the entire dinner bragging about his latest business ventures, boasting about his luxury cars and international trips. Mr. Robert, looking impressed, kept asking questions, but Isabelle sat in silence, barely touching her food. You're quiet, Isabelle. What's on your mind? Theo asked smugly. Nothing, Theo. I'm just enjoying the meal, she replied flatly. After they finished eating, Isabelle sighed. Dad, can we go now? She asked. Not yet, Isabelle, Mr. Robert replied. There's something you need to know. Isabelle felt a sinking feeling as her father's tone suggested bad news. What is it, Dad? And why does Theo have to be here? She asked. Mr. Robert cleared his throat, glancing at Theo before turning back to Isabelle. Theo's father and I talked. We agreed that you and Theo should get married. Isabelle felt cold dread creeping over her. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What? Are you serious? She asked. Don't worry, Isabelle, Theo cut in with a grin. I already said yes to your dad, and my father's in favor of it too. No, I don't want this. I have no plans to marry, and certainly not you, Isabelle said firmly. Mr. Robert frowned, displeased with her reaction. Isabelle, you can't refuse this. Marriage is important not only for you and Theo but for our business. It will help expand Sanders Enterprises and also benefit Theo's family. I'm not getting married just for business. I don't like Theo, Dad, Isabelle insisted, her voice trembling. This is the right thing for you to do for our family, Mr. Robert said sternly. It's not about your feelings, it's about preserving our name and livelihood. Think of everything I've sacrificed for you. Now I'm asking for this, and you won't comply. I don't want to marry someone I don't love, Dad, Isabelle said, her voice shaking. I've made my decision, and you have no say in the matter, Mr. Robert replied. You know, Isabelle, you're lucky to be with me, Theo chimed in arrogantly. Not every woman has the chance to marry someone as wealthy, business-savvy, good-looking, and let's face it, irresistible as me.
You forgot one thing, Theo. You're also incredibly conceited.
Even if you were the last man on earth, I wouldn't marry you, Isabelle shot back.
I'm not bragging, Isabelle.
I'm just stating facts, he said, smirking.
Enough. Mr. Robert snapped. Theo is right.
He's simply telling you what he's accomplished and what more he can do. You're lucky to have him, and you should stop making this difficult for us.
My decision stands. The two of you will marry as soon as possible.
Isabelle shook her head, stunned by how quickly her life was falling apart. After dinner, she and Mr. Robert headed back to their mansion. Isabelle's heart felt heavy, unable to accept that her own father would force her into marriage with someone she did not love. It was clear now that all Mr. Robert cared about was his business. Isabelle knew that if she married Theo, she would lose what little freedom she had and any chance of pursuing her dream. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she stared out the car window, realizing she had to do something before it was too late. When they arrived at the mansion, Isabelle got out quickly and went inside.
Mr. Robert followed behind.
He walked faster and was already halfway up the grand staircase when Isabelle summoned the courage to speak. "Dad, wait," Isabelle called out softly.
Can we please talk about what you said earlier about me and Theo getting married?
What's there to talk about?
Mr. Robert replied. It's settled.
Even if you object, there's nothing you can do.
Dad, I can't do it. I can't marry Theo.
I don't love him, Isabelle pleaded. I don't want to marry someone I don't love. Mr. Robert's eyes narrowed in displeasure.
Isabelle, do you realize everything around you is because of me? I gave you a good life, a name, and a place in the business world. Now I'm asking you to do your duty to keep everything I've worked for intact, he said vehemently.
You know I never wanted all of this, Isabelle said tearfully. I just want a simple life and the freedom to do what I love.
What freedom are you talking about? Do you think you could survive outside this world, Isabelle?
Think carefully. This marriage isn't about your feelings, it's about the business, our family. Think of the sacrifices I've made for you. Now I'm asking for one thing, and you can't give it to me. Mr. Robert's voice was cold and filled with disappointment. You've never cared about how I feel, Dad, Isabelle cried. You never gave me a choice or let me make my own decisions. No matter what you say, nothing changes, Mr. Robert shot back. You're marrying Theo. Go to your room. I don't want to hear any more of your objections. He turned and headed upstairs to his private suite. Isabelle stayed where she was, tears streaming down her face. Once her father was out of sight, she slowly made her way up to her own room. Sitting on the edge of her bed, she looked at her reflection in the large mirror across from her. She heaved a deep sigh, thinking of any way she could avoid this forced marriage. She walked over to her window, opened it, and let the cool night air wash over her face. I have to do something, she whispered. I can't just let them keep controlling my life. Then it hit her. She could leave her father's house without telling anyone. In other words, she could run away. Isabelle backed away from the window and went to her closet. She opened a small drawer containing some valuables, a little cash, her passport, and a few pieces of jewelry she could pawn if she needed money. She put everything into a simple backpack, then paused, heart pounding. What if I get caught? Will I hurt Dad by doing this? She wondered, shaking her head as though to rid herself of the doubt. No, I've always done what he wanted. This time, I'm doing what I want, she said firmly. After packing, she perched again on the bed, looking around at her lavish room. Her eyes rested on a few photographs on the wall, memories from her childhood, some with her late mother. A small smile crept across her face, tinged with sadness. If only you were here, Mom. I know you wouldn't let Dad do this to me, Isabelle murmured. She spent a few more minutes mulling over her plan, waiting until she was certain everyone else in the mansion was asleep. When the house was finally silent, she stood, slung the backpack over her shoulder, and left her room. Step by step, she descended the mansion's grand staircase as quietly as she could, hoping no one would hear. At the front door, she carefully opened it, but before she could fully exit, a familiar voice called from behind. Isabelle, where are you going at this hour?
Rose asked in a startled tone. Isabelle froze and slowly turned around.
The older woman approached, eyes wide with concern.
Rose, I'm running away, Isabelle admitted. What are you talking about, dear? You can't do that. Don't you realize how worried your father will be if he finds out you left without a word? Rose said, clearly alarmed.
Dad wants me to marry Theo, even though I don't want to, Isabelle said.
I can't stand it anymore. Please, Rose, just let me go. Rose's eyes reflected genuine concern. Haven't you thought about how hard life might be out there?
You don't have experience living like that, Rose reasoned. I know, Isabelle conceded, but I'd rather face hardship than stay here and do something that goes against my will.
Rose was silent for a moment.
She had worked for the Sanders family for so long and loved Isabelle like her own daughter.
At last, she spoke softly, Are you sure about this decision? Isabelle nodded. Yes, if I stay any longer, I'll lose myself completely, she said.
Rose's eyes brimmed with tears, but she nodded.
Then I won't stop you.
Take care of yourself, my dear.
If you ever need me, come back.
I'll be here, Rose said, her voice trembling.
Isabelle embraced her tightly. Thank you, Rose. Thank you for everything.
Don't worry, I'll be careful. She finally stepped out of the mansion and walked straight toward the gate. With every step she took, her heart felt lighter. She silently vowed she would no longer allow anyone to control her life. Hours later, Isabelle reached a bus station. She boarded one of the buses without even checking its final destination. The driver didn't wait for the bus to fill up, he pulled away almost immediately. Isabelle stared at the city lights fading away through the window, relieved to be leaving her problems behind, if only for a while. After several minutes, the bus stopped to pick up passengers. A woman around 40 got on, and upon seeing Isabelle, froze. Isabelle realized in alarm that it was Mrs. Gloria, one of their former housekeepers.
Miss Isabelle, how are you? Mrs. Gloria asked happily. Panic flooded Isabelle.
She forced a smile. I'm sorry, but I'm not Isabelle.
You've got the wrong person. Don't be silly. I'd never forget your face. Why are you riding a bus when you have so many cars at home? Mrs. Gloria asked.
I'm in a hurry, Isabelle stammered.
Sorry, but I need to get off.
She stood and called out for the driver to pull over. As soon as the bus came to a stop, Isabelle hurried off, no longer caring that she didn't recognize the area. That was when she realized that just because she had left the mansion didn't mean she was truly free.
She could still be recognized.
If that happened, Mr. Robert would find her easily. She needed a way to disguise herself. Wandering through the unfamiliar streets, she spotted a small salon.
Without hesitation, she went inside and asked for a haircut.
She had always cherished her long hair, but she knew drastic measures were necessary. When it was done, she hardly recognized herself in the mirror. Her waist-length hair was now cropped to her shoulders. After paying, she left the salon and crossed the street to a little accessory store.
She bought a pair of large, round-framed eyeglasses.
The moment she put them on, she looked almost like a different person. Continuing her walk, Isabelle came upon a thrift shop, an outlet store where she picked out plain blouses, jeans, and long skirts, simple clothing she had never worn before. Afterward, hunger pangs reminded her she hadn't eaten. She saw a small diner on the corner and went inside, taking a seat at an empty table. The friendly woman behind the counter approached. "What can I get you?" asked the older waitress. "One order of chicken soup and some cornbread, please," Isabelle replied. While waiting, she realized that in this little diner, nobody paid attention to her.
She was just another customer.
She relished that feeling. When her food arrived, she began eating, relieved to fill her empty stomach. Partway through her meal, a woman around 45 came over, carrying a large basket of vegetables.
She had a warm smile. "Hey there, mind if I sit with you?" the woman asked.
"Not at all," Isabelle answered, smiling back politely. The woman sat down and placed her basket on the floor. Moments later, she spoke again. "I'm Marissa, by the way," she said, extending a hand. Isabelle hesitated briefly before shaking it. I'm Bay, she introduced herself, the name she decided to use so Bella.
Marissa said. Where are you from? Looks like you're new here. I'm from out of state, Arizona, Isabelle lied, smiling awkwardly. Arizona, huh? Let me ask you something. Are you looking for work here?
You seem like a newcomer, Marissa observed.
Isabelle paused.
She'd been secretly thrilled by the idea of living like an ordinary person, so she nodded.
Yes, I'm looking for a job. I've been here for a week with no luck. Well, that's perfect, Marissa exclaimed. Do you know housework, cleaning, cooking, laundry?
Isabelle wasn't used to such chores, but she didn't let her hesitation show.
Yes, I can manage.
Why? She asked curiously.
I could recommend you to my employer, Marissa explained with a grin.
They need a new housekeeper.
You seem like a good person, Bella, so I can put in a good word for you. Really?
Thank you so much, Marissa, Isabelle said, genuinely grateful.
You're welcome, Marissa replied. Let's do this. Meet me here tomorrow, same time.
I'll take you to my employer's house so they can meet you.
Marissa finished her meal and left.
Isabelle watched her go, feeling a rush of excitement. Though she was not accustomed to manual labor, she sensed this might be the beginning of a truly different life, one where no one dictated her every move. She also realized it would be easier to hide if she were mostly indoors. After she ate, Isabelle searched for a place to stay for the night. She found a cheap motel and took a small room where she rested until morning. The next day, she checked out and returned to the diner to wait for Marissa.
Not long after, Marissa arrived. Bella, have you been waiting long?
Sorry about the traffic, Marissa said apologetically.
No, I just got here too, Isabelle answered with a smile. All right, let's go, Marissa said. I already told my employers about you.
I said I've known you for a while so they wouldn't get suspicious. They flagged a taxi and rode into an upscale subdivision. Most of the houses were large and lavish, and the taxi stopped in front of a white, two-story home with a spacious lawn.
Getting out, Marissa opened the gate, and Isabelle followed her inside.
They entered the house, and Marissa invited Isabelle to sit on a plush sofa.
Stay here, Bella.
I'll go get my employers, Marissa said, heading upstairs. Alone in the living room, Isabelle felt both nervous and excited. She was about to begin a new chapter of her life.
After several minutes, Marissa returned with two figures whose mere presence felt intimidating, Mrs. Clarice del Rosario and her daughter, Bianca del Rosario.
The moment Isabelle saw them, she sensed they were proud and demanding. Clarice appeared to be in her 40s, tall, fair-skinned, with flawlessly blow-dried hair.
She wore a beige dress and expensive jewelry.
Bianca, who looked about Isabelle's age, wore her long, straight hair in a ponytail and heavy eyeliner that emphasized her sharp expression.
She was clad in a designer black dress.
Mrs. Clarice, this is the new housekeeper I mentioned to replace Cheryl, Marissa said.
Isabelle rose to greet them with a small smile.
Good morning, she said politely.
Clarice eyed her from head to toe, as if inspecting merchandise. So you're Bella, right? Do you really know how to do housework? We don't hire lazy or clueless people. We don't like wasting money on slackers, Clarice asked. Yes, ma'am. I can clean, cook, and do laundry.
I promise to do my best, Isabelle replied courteously.
Bianca suddenly interjected, Are you sure you're not all talk?
We don't need someone who can't keep up with our needs, she said, eyes narrowed. Miss Bianca, I'll do my best to follow all your instructions, Isabelle promised. Clarice lowered herself onto the sofa across from Isabelle while Bianca stood beside her mother.
Fine, we have rules in this house you need to follow.
1. Every corner of this place must always be spotless. I hate dirty floors or messy furniture. 2. Our clothes and belongings must be perfectly maintained.
I can't stand wrinkled or smelly items. 3. Don't ask questions when we tell you to do something, just do it. 4. Don't waste time.
You're up by 5 in the morning, and you finish all tasks before 8 in the evening.
Understood?
Isabelle realized how strict these rules were, but she also knew she had to accept them if she wanted a place to hide from her father.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
Clarice and Bianca exchanged meaningful glances, then Clarice gave a slight smile.
Good.
One more thing, you have no right to complain or refuse any task.
Consider yourself lucky we're taking you in without much background check, Clarice added.
Yes, ma'am, Isabelle replied, even though she realized she might be walking back into the same sort of restrictive environment she had just escaped. All right, bae, from now on you're our new housekeeper, Clarice said.
Marissa, show her what to do. With that, Clarice and Bianca left the house.
Once they were gone, Isabelle felt the weight of the responsibilities ahead, but she also promised herself she'd succeed in this new life. Marissa led Isabelle to the small maid's room at the back of the house. When they opened the door, Isabelle saw a modest but tidy space with 2 single beds. When Marissa opened the bag, she momentarily froze upon seeing a bundle of money and several pieces of expensive jewelry inside. She furrowed her brow and looked at Isabelle with confusion.
What's this? Why do you have so much money and all these pieces of jewelry? Where did you get them? Marissa asked, clearly perplexed.
Isabelle panicked a bit but tried her best to remain calm. She quickly took the bag from Marissa and closed it.
Oh, it's my inheritance from my mother.
She left it to me before she passed away. I just don't want to spend or sell any of it because it reminds me of her, Isabelle lied.
I see.
Sorry if I'm being nosy, but please take care of that, okay? It isn't safe for you to be walking around with that much money and jewelry.
Something might happen to you, Marissa warned.
Isabelle merely answered with a small smile, not wanting the conversation about the contents of her bag to go on any longer. Marissa stood up, hands on her hips.
Okay, if you really don't want help, I'll leave you to it.
But once you're done putting your things away, come to the kitchen.
I'll show you what you need to do around here, Marissa said and left the room. Isabelle took a deep breath and sat on the edge of the bed.
She hadn't realized how close she'd come to being exposed, so she promised herself to be more careful in the coming days. You can do this, Isabelle, she whispered to herself, then she began organizing her belongings.
Once Isabelle finished putting her things away, she left the maid's room and headed to the kitchen.
When she arrived, she saw Marissa arranging pots on the top shelf of a cabinet.
Oh, Isabelle, you're here.
Come on, I'll show you what you need to do, Marissa invited. Isabelle stepped closer and observed her surroundings. She noticed the pantry in one corner of the kitchen, a large cupboard filled with various foods, cans, cereal boxes, imported cookies, and expensive chocolates.
Wow, this pantry is packed. Looks like you're never hungry here, Marissa, Isabelle remarked in amazement.
Listen, Isabelle, don't get tempted by the stuff in the pantry, Marissa whispered.
We can't just take anything from it without asking M. Clarice or M. Bianca. Even a single cookie requires their permission. After all, they paid for this food.
Isabelle was saddened by the situation Marissa described. Back at her own mansion, all food in the house belonged to everyone, including the staff.
Nobody needed permission to eat anything.
Isabelle had always considered the household helpers part of the family. Marissa continued, so if you get hungry, you'll have to hold off or ask them. They hate it when we take things without asking around here, that counts as stealing. Also, be careful with our bosses. They might look sophisticated, but they can be real devils if they don't like your work. They'll dock your pay or even pull your hair. Isabelle felt a pang of sadness at what she was learning about Clarice and Bianca.
Thanks for the warning, Marissa.
I'll just have to be careful, she replied, forcing a smile. That's why it's better if you know everything up front. Just follow their rules, don't cause trouble, and you should be fine. At least, if they see that you do your job well. Now come on, I'll show you the rest, Marissa said, motioning for Isabelle to follow. She began teaching Isabelle how to clean the kitchen and bathrooms, demonstrating which cleaning supplies to use. While doing these tasks, Isabelle reflected on her new life. She knew that working in this house wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to push through. During her first week as a housekeeper, Isabelle gradually adapted to her chores. She was always nervous, especially in the beginning,
afraid of making mistakes and being scolded by Clarice or Bianca. Over time, though, she learned to complete tasks quickly and efficiently. Sweeping the floors, washing dishes, and mixing coffee exactly how they liked it became part of her daily routine. She noticed that Clarice and Bianca didn't reprimand her, they simply stayed quiet so long as she did everything right. And for Isabelle, that was enough reassurance. She felt confident, knowing she wasn't doing anything wrong. Even so, Isabelle couldn't help missing her father. At night, when the house was silent, she often remembered the times she spent with Mr. Robert. Despite her anger toward him, she recalled their happy memories, especially those from when her mother was still alive. But she forced herself to stop thinking about such things, afraid that her longing might drive her back to her old home too soon. Isabelle had vowed never to return until Mr. Robert learned the important lesson that being her father did not give him the right to control her life. For Isabelle, this wasn't just about avoiding a forced marriage, it was about finally claiming her own freedom. One evening, after Isabelle and Marissa finished all their chores, they headed to their bedroom to sleep. A month had passed since Isabelle started working there, and she'd managed so far without being on the receiving end of Clarice and Bianca's infamous tantrums. She felt grateful. "You know, Isabelle, I never expected you'd last this long," Marissa said. "Most of the new hires quit during their first week because they can't handle how those two act." "I just try to do everything quickly and correctly so they won't get mad," Isabelle replied. They continued chatting about their lives until the topic turned to family. "What about you, Bella? Do you still have family back home?" Marissa asked. Isabelle hesitated for a moment. She couldn't possibly tell the truth, so she made up a story. "Yes, I have a father, but my mother is gone. My dad can be very strict, especially when it comes to my choices in life. That's why I ran away. I wanted a life where I can do what I want." "It really is tough when your own parents stop you from following your dreams," Marissa sympathized. "But at least you tried to stand on your own 2 feet." Marissa sighed. "You know, Isabelle, sometimes I wonder how my life would have turned out if I'd put myself first." "Why, Marissa? What's your story?" Isabelle asked, sensing Marissa was comfortable enough to share. Marissa explained that when her father died of an illness, she had to become the family's breadwinner. She had 4 younger siblings and was the eldest, so she provided for them and helped them finish school. Isabelle felt tears prick her eyes, relieved that the lights were off so Marissa couldn't see. "You've sacrificed so much," Isabelle said softly, feeling the weight of Marissa's experiences. "That's the way it goes. Family has to come first, even before yourself. That's why, well, I ended up never getting married or planning anything just for me. But despite it all, I'm happy to see them living better lives," Marissa admitted. Isabelle sensed Marissa forcing a smile and felt even more sympathy. "Marissa, I hope one day you'll find your own happiness too. You've done so much for your family." "Thank you, Isabelle. I'm glad I finally have someone here I can really talk to." "The past housekeepers were always so quiet," Marissa said happily. Their conversation continued, but Marissa's story stayed with Isabelle. Even though she herself was going through hard times, she realized that Marissa's struggles were on another level, perhaps even more difficult. That same night, back in his mansion, Mr. Robert was in his office, speaking with a private investigator he'd hired to find Isabelle. His face was tense because there was still no good news. "You're useless," Mr. Robert snarled. "It's been a month, and you still have no leads on where she is. You're just wasting my money." "I'm doing my best, Mr. Sanders, but no one seems to know where she went or where she might be hiding," the investigator replied, trying to defend himself. "Don't make excuses. I'm paying you to find her, not give me reasons why you can't. Get out of my house." Mr. Robert roared, standing up and jabbing a finger at the man. The investigator had no choice but to leave and avoid Mr. Robert's fury at all costs. Once he was gone, Amrose knocked on the door and came in, carrying a tray with 2 cups of coffee. She carefully set it down on the desk. "Mr. Sanders, where's your guest?" Amrose asked while handing him one of the cups. "I sent him away," Mr. Robert grumbled. "He's useless. He can't do his job. No news about Isabelle whatsoever.
Rose shook her head and sat gently in one of the chairs.
I don't think you have to worry too much. Maybe Isabelle just needs time to cool off. I'm sure she's safe, Mr. Sanders.
Maybe she just needs a break from all the stress here, especially since she didn't want to marry Theo, Rose said hesitantly.
You don't understand, Rose. The wedding is set for next month.
I can't cancel it, especially now that everyone knows it's happening.
Isabelle isn't thinking straight.
She's only thinking about herself, Mr. Robert replied furiously. Mr. Sanders, pardon me, but I disagree about Isabelle only thinking of herself, Rose answered softly.
Ever since she was young, I've seen her obey you. Didn't she want to be a pianist, yet she focused on business because you told her to?
Perhaps she just can't bring herself to follow your order about marrying Theo, knowing marriage is a lifetime commitment. I don't need a lecture from you, Rose.
Get out and leave me alone, Mr. Robert snapped. Rose stood and left the office.
Once he was alone, Mr. Robert sank back into his swivel chair, brooding over her words. He felt a pang of sorrow, realizing she had a point. The next morning, after breakfast, Isabelle started watering the plants around Clarice and Bianca's home. She began with the ones inside and ended with those outside. Holding a hose, she carefully watered the plants near the gate. Suddenly, she heard a deep male voice behind her.
Good morning, the man greeted. Isabelle was startled and turned around quickly. By accident, she sprayed him with the hose, soaking his clothes.
She hurried to redirect the water and turn off the faucet, alarmed. She faced the man she had never seen before.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, sir.
I didn't mean to do that, Isabelle said, flustered. The man, tall, handsome, with expressive eyes, a well-defined nose, and nicely shaped lips, was wearing a white polo shirt and black pants, both now drenched. It's fine, no worries, he replied, smiling.
I caught you off guard.
Before Isabelle could respond, Bianca came out through the gate and hurried over to the man, looking concerned.
Lucas, what happened? Why are you soaked? Bianca asked. It's my fault, Isabelle answered quickly.
He startled me, so I accidentally turned the hose on him.
Bianca glared at Isabelle. Are you out of your mind, Bella?
Do you know how expensive Lucas's clothes are? She snapped.
Bianca, that's enough.
It's okay, she didn't mean to do it, the man interjected, flashing Isabelle a reassuring smile. I have a change of clothes in the car anyway.
Bianca gave Isabelle a sharp look. You're lucky Lucas isn't making a big deal out of this, otherwise I would have yanked your hair out by now, she threatened before storming back inside.
Lucas maintained his friendly expression, still unaffected by what happened. He stepped over to his luxury car to grab a clean set of clothes. As he passed Isabelle on his way into the house, he turned back and offered her a warm smile, leaving Isabelle stunned. She couldn't help but smile a little in return, even though she barely knew him. She already sensed a certain ease around him. Once Isabelle finished watering the outdoor plants, she went inside. In the living area, she spotted Bianca and Lucas chatting. Bianca lounged on the sofa while Lucas relaxed beside her, smiling and listening to whatever she was telling him. As soon as Bianca saw Isabelle, she called out, Bella, bring us some fresh orange juice and lasagna now, and hurry, she ordered irritably. As Isabelle walked away toward the kitchen, she heard Bianca brag to Lucas, I made that lasagna myself, Lucas. I'm sure you'll love it. The flavors are absolutely perfect, she said with a laugh. In the kitchen, Isabelle couldn't help but chuckle softly at Bianca's remark. She knew Bianca was lying because, in reality, she and Marissa had prepared the lasagna. Isabelle took out a tray, placed 2 small plates on it, and served lasagna on each, along with 2 glasses of orange juice. Carefully, she carried it all to the living room, setting it on the small coffee table in front of Bianca and Lucas. She was about to leave when Lucas spoke up.
Bella, he began. Yes, sir, what is it?
Isabelle asked, her nerves kicking in again because of his intense gaze.
Lucas studied her face.
You know, Bella, you seem familiar, he said, furrowing his brow. Isabelle stiffened, her anxiety growing under his scrutiny.
Ha? Me?
I don't think so, she replied, forcing a smile, though her voice quivered.
Lucas, really? Bianca jumped in. She's just a maid.
I'm sure you're mixing her up with someone else, she scoffed, laughing loudly.
I'm serious, Bianca.
I think I saw her in a business magazine once.
I'm sure of it, Lucas insisted. That's impossible. Why would I be in a magazine like that?
I have no business or any reason to appear in one, Isabelle answered with an uneasy laugh.
Lucas, give it a rest, Bianca said, rolling her eyes. She's just our housekeeper. Don't waste your time talking to her.
She might get the wrong idea, she added snidely, dismissing Isabelle with a glare. Bianca's tone indicated Isabelle should return to the kitchen immediately, so Isabelle hurried off, relieved to end that conversation. She rested both hands on the edge of the sink, feeling her heart pound. She couldn't explain why she was so rattled, but she knew she was terrified of Lucas possibly figuring out her real identity. If he did, her father might soon find out where she was. Isabelle clutched her chest and tried to calm herself. A moment later, Marissa emerged from the back, carrying a large basket of freshly laundered clothes.
Isabelle, could you help me iron these? Marissa asked. Sure, Isabelle replied. Let's do it so we can finish fast.
They took the basket upstairs to a room used for ironing clothes, and they got right to work. Isabelle stayed quiet, unable to shake the thought that Lucas might suspect who she was.
Finally, she couldn't contain her curiosity. Marissa, is he Bianca's boyfriend? Isabelle asked casually. Marissa laughed.
No, they're just friends, but it's obvious Bianca has a crush on him. You know how she is, always desperate for his attention.
But I think Lucas only sees her as a friend. Is Lucas wealthy?
Isabelle pressed, wanting to understand why he might recognize her.
Oh, yes, very.
He's the only child of the Montgomery family.
They own hotels, restaurants, lots of businesses. So it's no wonder Bianca won't give up.
She knows how wealthy Lucas is, Marissa explained. Isabelle was left speechless by this information and muttered under her breath, not realizing she was speaking softly, so that explains it.
He's in the same business circle. He might have seen. What did you say? Marissa asked, frowning curiously.
Oh, I said Lucas sure is lucky to be that rich, Isabelle covered quickly. Marissa just shrugged, and they resumed their work, but Isabelle's fear escalated. If Lucas moved in the same business circles as her father, there was a real chance he'd figure out who she was. Over the following days, Isabelle noticed Lucas seemed to come over almost daily.
He often chatted with Bianca and Clarice, but Isabelle couldn't help catching his secret glances her way.
Whenever their eyes met, he smiled warmly, a smile that suggested something more. Isabelle wasn't blind, she could see that Lucas was drawn to her. Yet she tried to avoid him, knowing her secret would be at risk if he got too close. Whenever Lucas dropped by, she'd busy herself in the kitchen or head out to the garden to water the plants. But no matter what she did, she could feel his eyes following her. One afternoon, while Isabelle was washing dishes, she was startled to see Lucas standing at the doorway.
Bella, can we talk? He asked in a calm voice. Talk about what, Mr. Lucas? Isabelle replied nervously.
Lucas moved closer, looking into her eyes. Isabelle turned away, uncomfortable under his gaze.
What is it you need, sir? I still have a lot of work to